guys, welcome in, welcome in, welcome to
Mhm.
Conversations with Christy. How are you? We have the amazing Karena with us
Yeah.
today. I'm so excited that you're here because, girl, I
Mhm.
need you to explain some things in my life. This energy is
Something
something
else.
else.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not fun. It's not fun.
Yeah. Um,
So,
a million thoughts. I don't know if you want me to jump right in.
yeah, go ahead, jump right in. You guys, I hope that you have like me, you've got your journals and your pens. I'm going to be taking notes. If you see the camera shaking, it's because I'm writing.
Such a
So, yes,
journaler. I love it so
yes.
much.
Oh,
Um,
so yeah.
so for everybody, I always feel like astrological placements, none of them are negative. There really are,
Hmm.
there's an opportunity in absolutely everything.
Right,
But in the moment, some of them feel subjectively fun in the sun and rainbows and puppies, and others just
right.
feel a little bit more like storm clouds. And
Hmm.
the middle of October is kind of more of a storm cloud. And there are a ton of
Yeah.
opportunities here, and we're going to talk about them. But if we're approaching middle to the end of October, hoping for sunshine and puppies, that's just not really the energy we're getting. Um, so for starters, we just went through eclipse season.
Hmm.
And the eclipse energy, that really intense, sort of new beginnings, endings, feeling like it is the time to make any needed changes in our life. Normally, that energy of the eclipses sort of wraps up when we get our next new or full moon. In
Hmm.
our case, that the next new or full moon is this
Uh-huh.
Thursday morning, but it's a little bit of a tense full moon. So we're not getting
Hmm.
quite the reset that we normally would. So it's almost like eclipse
Right.
season, um, instead of lasting from early September to early October, it's sort of continuing. And we'll talk a little
I'm
bit
feeling
about why.
it.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about why. Um, but in general, the common theme that's coming up for both of these past eclipses that happened in mid-September and early October, and the energy leading up and into this full moon on Thursday morning as well, is um, it's between the Libra and Aries axis.
Uh-huh.
Aries is me. Aries is the
Mhm.
the quintessential ego, not in the bad sense of the word, just in the
Mhm.
me sense of the word.
Mhm. Mhm.
Libra is all about our relationship with others, connecting with others, making
Mhm.
others feel comfortable. So there's really kind of this push and pull along this axis, and I'm seeing this in almost every astrology and tarot reading I'm doing right now too, is people are feeling this pull between, who am I, just me, my authentic self. Who
Right.
am I in all of the various relationships in my life? Who am I as a sibling, as a parent, as a child, as a friend? Kind of
Uh-huh.
feeling our way through all of those. And it's inevitable that when we enter into collaborations, friendships, relationships with other humans,
Mm.
we have to compromise some things, right? We never get
Right.
exactly, there are some
Right.
quirks or habits or whatever of other people that we kind of have to say, you know what? I don't love that, but it's worth it because I want to be in this relationship with them.
Right. Right.
But there's always a balance line between how much compromising of ourselves is too much. And
Yes.
so much of the energy right now between that Aries Libra axis is this push and pull of wanting to be totally, fully, authentically ourselves on the Aries side,
Mhm.
and wanting to
Mm.
be connected deeply, spiritually with many people on the other side,
Uh-huh.
and sort of that push and pull of how much am I willing to compromise to be in
See,
these various relationships. Um, and so it's
yes.
been a little exhausting. because that constant
Yeah.
push and pull, and this is who I am. No, I can compromise on this. Our boundaries have been a little all over the place. Our boundaries with others and our boundaries with ourselves. Um, yeah, I don't know if this is matching any of what you've been experiencing recently,
Yes.
Tracy.
Yes, it's been a real big push and pull between I want this, I feel this, and then with Michael and I, like, what are you doing? And I told him today, he's like, you're just grumpy. And I'm like, sometimes I just can't look at you without just wanting to just shake you. And normally it's not like that for us. But the last few days, I've just kind of looked at him and I've been like, uh-huh.
Yeah.
And
And
I know that's not us. I know it's me. I know it's my placements. And I'm not blaming it all on astrology, you guys, but I mean, it really is me.
the
Just
other thing,
like,
though, Christy, is because you are so intuitive, um, there's sort of both a blessing and a curse of being intuitive. Obviously, the blessing is we
right,
get to have more communication, more connection
right,
with the greater cosmos, the greater energies in the world. The
right.
downside is a lot of times we may be picking up on energies we would rather opt out of. So, it's hard. It's almost like the more intuitive a person is, the more they do kind of feel these energies
Yeah,
moving. And they're like, and you might be like, yeah, I am grumpy. And
right.
that's just what I'm picking up on and feeling right now. So it's a challenge. But we'll talk a little bit about some, mitigations too, and what to expect with the full moon this week, which will be kind of a
Yes,
continuation of some of that energy. Um,
right, right.
So also, Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars is that
Mm-hmm,
warrior energy.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
all of us have been feeling a little more like we need to stand up for ourselves and fight for ourselves. And why can't I just be me? Why do I have to be compromising all the time?
Yeah,
So Aries,
yeah.
and Mars wants that. Mars is a warrior looking for the next cause to help you fight. And right now,
Mm-hmm,
that cause for Mars to help fight is kind of like, yeah, I want to be my authentic me. Um,
mm-hmm.
and then if we look at the planet and Mars is currently in Cancer. And as
Uh,
we talked about a little bit last month, Mars is not strong in Cancer. Mars is in what's called its fall in Cancer. That does not
mm-hmm,
mean it's less powerful. It
mm-hmm.
means it has um, less clear vision to know where to direct its warriorness.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of standing there, it's ready to fight, and it may be fighting the wrong person. It may be fighting a
Yeah.
tree, whether rather than like an actual enemy. And so Mars is struggling to kind of find its foothold. Mars wants to fight right now, but in with yeah, with Mars being in Cancer, it doesn't know how to pick its battles. And so
And
it's probably picking the wrong ones much of the
that's
time.
exactly where I'm at right now. And what I find for me too, and I know the Aquarius and Pluto thing is this is bringing up things in me that are unhealed. And I mentioned this morning. It really is bringing to the surface this stuff that I thought was healed that it's like another layer of. So I'm
Yeah.
seeing it. And so not only is it this energy and I'm seeing it, but it's that underbelly of stuff and it's that Aquarius and being swordsy about dealing with it but not wanting to deal with it and then again like you said fighting a tree, so I'm like fighting the the wrong battle because the battle needs to be fought within, not with my husband, because it really, I mean, guys, it really is me. This is my trauma coming through that I'm needing to fix. But I'm just in the wrong stratosphere. But it's okay because I know that. And so at least I can try to like sort myself out a little bit. You'll notice he's not here. He really wasn't here this morning. It's because he's like, I'm just going to leave you alone. Like, dude, bounce. Like, so it's okay. It's
Um,
okay. But that's kind of what it feels like for me. I don't know about everybody else,
yeah.
but it is like you said, coming through in the readings, the reading this morning, we had the Devil card and the Nine of Swords and the Eight of Swords. And I mean, it was just very like,
Mm.
whew, you know,
Yeah,
I think it was,
you're
yeah.
you're segueing us beautifully though, Christy, into some of the things we can do with this energy. And
Yeah.
um, sometimes, we have enough willpower and resilience to sort of put up with
Hmm.
maybe a lot, and we kind of
Hmm.
we put up with it and we put up with it. And then when we have these times where Mars is like ready to go, Mars is ruling the eclipse. Mars is also
Uh,
going to be ruling the full moon on Thursday, which will happen
hmm.
in
Right.
Aries. It's almost like a needed kick in the pants a little,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
things we've been putting up with, just like sort of repressing any frustration or anger and saying, that's okay. I understand that this person is having a hard time, or, and some of
Right.
that is okay. We don't want to be a person who flies off the handle at every possible thing. But at the same
Yes.
time, if there are sort of inequities in any of our relationships, or we feel like maybe we're being taken advantage of, or we are putting in more
Mhm.
energy than the other person is putting in, sometimes we're fighting a tree instead of a real enemy.
Yeah.
We should be aware of that. But sometimes we actually are getting a glimpse of a real enemy that we've sort of repressed and moved back. And exactly to your
Mhm.
point, kind of that trauma can come up. And if you find yourself snapping at Michael, it's like, what is actually bothering me? What's deeper? What's
Yes.
so we've got a
Yes.
lot more clarity into that with this set of eclipses and the full moon coming up.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's what I've been doing is like, okay, I know it's really not him, and and so for me, it's and I talked about it this morning. Something as simple as like what woman wouldn't want her husband on her day off, on his day off, to wash the dishes and make breakfast and do laundry, and I was just like, because in my previous relationship to my ex, that was a sign of I was failing, I was no good. It was
Oh,
not
yeah.
coming from a place of genuine, like, let me help you. It was coming from a
Yeah.
place of, you're inadequate, you're not worth the air that you breathe, you're not worth this. And so that's where I say that I know that the trauma is mine, because this is bringing that back up, like, and yes, Ben, like the card thing said, yes. So it's bringing it back up, and I'm really like taking it out on him, because it's the way he's verbalizing it normally wouldn't hit me that way, but there's, I think, because of, and we're going to be talking about this what, next week, or some this sun going into Scorpio, and that kind of
Yeah.
intense season,
Yeah.
and all of the shadow work. It's all coming, you guys, it's all coming up for me, and I think it's just been building, 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 and now it's, we're never completely healed, right? Like, we
Yeah.
never get past all of that, and we think, oh, I'm managing this just fine, and then something like this happens, and you really have to, like in the reading this morning, we have to take accountability for ourselves, and we have to say, okay,
Mm.
what's mine and what's theirs, and this is mine. Like, it's kind of one of those things. Yeah, yeah. So you guys, sometimes it really is you, sometimes it's really not the other person, and that's where I'm at. Like, it really is this unhealed trauma that I thought I was past, that is really just being pushed. And like I said, I'm fighting a tree because I've got to get to the root of what it's about, you know.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, and first of all, I think it's very courageous of you to own that, because, our natural defense mechanisms, it's like, no, it's not
yeah.
me. Whatever's the problem, it's not me.
Mhm.
So so
Right.
courageous to be able to kind of say, in this case, it actually is me. And for all of us here, sometimes it is us. And I feel
Right.
like you segued beautifully into the next point. It's like it's like we're on the same wavelength.
We just,
Uh,
yes.
but Aries is one side of this tug of war. The other is Libra, and Libra
Hmm.
is ruled by Venus. just
Mm-hmm.
as Mars is in an awkward place right now in Cancer, Venus is in an awkward place right now in Scorpio. And you
Mm.
mentioned, Christy, the Scorpio energy is intense. So Venus rules
Yeah.
Taurus, which is opposite Scorpio. And
Mm-hmm.
Venus in Taurus is just relaxed and peace loving and living in the
Uh-huh.
country and picking flowers.
Right.
Venus, in its detriment in Scorpio, opposite, it's intense,
Yeah.
and Venus is all about the way we relate to others, and so there is kind of an increased intensity, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if neediness is quite the right word I would use, but it's a word that's headed in the right direction. Um,
Oh, for me, it's
Venus,
neediness.
yeah, well, and I'm not speaking just to you, Christy, for
Right,
sure.
right, right.
But Venus in Scorpio, as our deep,
Yeah,
intense feelings come up, and like,
yeah,
these really deep fears of like, am I worthy? Does this person
yeah.
want to be with me? Like, and not even
Mm-hmm.
in romantic relationships, it can be in other friendships, other
Yeah,
relationships as well. But as
right.
those come up, and just with that intensity, it's
Mm-hmm.
really hard for even the most mature of us to manage that well. And oftentimes that
Right.
will come across as some, either sort of the neediness on one hand
Mm-hmm.
or kind of the snapping and frustration on the
Mm-hmm.
other, but all kind of
Yeah,
traced back to that root of, Venus and Scorpio is bringing up our fears. And most of us don't respond our best when we're sort of feeling that fear.
right. Yes, and that's where I'm at because it is both. It's that neediness, it's that me needing. And you guys, I'm just talking about me because it's how I'm feeling right now and it's
You're in
resonating.
it. Yeah, you're feeling it. You're being so
Yes.
intuitive.
And so it's that neediness of needing to be reassured that I'm loved when there's
Mhm.
never anything this man has ever done to make me not feel loved. But
Yeah.
also that like just I mean, I feel like I'm like fighting my way to Valhalla when I really just need to be sitting down next to a stream, sorting myself out in life. Like that is that push pull of where we're at, and it's tough. It's really difficult, especially with the energies already doing what they're doing, and then if you've got
Mhm.
traumas coming up for you or whatever, it's going to. And I just want to encourage you guys that even the people that you think are that, like Karina and I both, neither one of us always handle everything well, right? Like not
I
even
do
close.
not.
So
Right.
so so please, if you're
Oh.
feeling some kind of way, understand that that's a normal thing too. I want to normalize that,
Mm.
not always being gracious with yourself or others. That kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah. So now, how long is all of this loveliness going to carry on for us?
Oh, this loveliness. Well, because our full moon on Thursday is also
Uh-huh.
in Aries, and
Uh-huh.
because it is squaring Mars, which rules
Mhm.
Aries and has sort of been the ruler of the North Moon node during all of this eclipse stuff, it's going to be another little while. Not, I would say we have to get through the full moon on Thursday. And again, there are some really
Mhm.
cool things we can do with that full moon. I'm going to talk about it. But I would say
Yeah.
probably another few weeks after that,
Okay.
we will get a new moon in Scorpio,
Mhm.
and I at that point we the sun and moon will no longer be in Aries Libra, and we'll kind of be past the what are called lunations, the new and full moons happening in
Mhm.
those eclipse signs. So I would say
Mm.
probably if I look at a calendar, um, we're probably looking at around Halloween is actually what we're probably looking at. There are some other interesting energies that sort of hit towards the end of the month, which we'll talk about when we talk about the sun into Scorpio. But this
Uh-huh.
particular energy, kind of this push and pull, ourself
Mhm.
versus ourself with others, that feels like it's going to be
Mhm.
just the next few weeks. And
Okay.
um, so as we look at this full moon that's happening, depending on where you are in the world, on the West Coast, it's happening at I think like 5 a.m. on Thursday. It might be a little bit earlier or even late Wednesday night in other parts of the world.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but what's unique about this full moon is it's squaring Mars. And
Mhm.
so whenever we have a full moon, the sun and moon are on opposite sides of the earth from each other.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we have the sun still in Libra, we're still in Libra season, and the moon opposing it in Aries. And
Mhm.
Mars rules Aries. Mars is in Cancer.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm.
the moon rules Cancer.
Mhm.
So this is a lot of this rules this and this rules this. But if we take one step back and break it down, the moon,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
moon is in a sign that Mars rules, and Mars is in a sign that the moon rules. So the
Oh.
moon is in Aries, which is a Mars sign. Mars is in Cancer, which is a moon, a lunar sign. So
Okay.
there's that Mars, not only is it physically squaring this full moon, so we have the sun here, the moon here, we have the moon, we have Mars right up here, squaring both of
Uh-huh.
them. So the
Uh-huh.
moon is at a squared angle to this full moon, but it's also inextricably linked with this full moon because the moon and it have swapped signs, with the moon being in Mars's sign and Mars being in the
Oh.
moon's sign.
Oh.
It's almost
Oh.
like, Christy, if you and I switched houses, we would be
Uh-huh.
calling each other all the time. I would be like, "Where's your butter knife?" And you would be like, "Oh, it's in the drawer." And you would be like, "What's your Netflix password?" And we would be on the
Right.
phone all the time because we're
Yes.
staying in each other's houses. We have to have some communication.
Right.
And so
Right.
this is
Right.
very, very, yeah, there's just like that moon and that Mars are talking a lot because they're physically
Mhm.
square each other, which is an angle in which they can see each other really well, and they are
Mhm.
in each other's signs, which it's actually really, really positive. It's viewed like
Mhm.
astrologically very positive when planets are in each other's signs because there's kind
Mhm.
of a, okay, neither one of us are in our own house, but we're in each other's house, and so we're
Mhm.
sort of supporting each other and talking to each other and helping each other find what we need, and
Mhm.
there's a very collaborative feel to planets that are in mutual reception to each other, so that's phenomenal. The tricky
Right.
part with this full moon is, again, we've got that full moon in the full moon is when the moon is at its very brightest, very most powerful. And it
Mhm.
is in Aries, the warrior
Mhm.
sign, ruled by
Right.
Mars, the warrior planet, and they are in each other's houses. So normally the moon is flowy, intuitive, graceful, gracious.
Mhm.
When the moon is talking on the phone to Mars every hour, a little bit
Uh-huh.
of that warrior energy rubs off. So
Right.
the moon is
Right.
not quite as peaceful and gentle
Yeah.
and loving as she would normally
Right.
be. She's got more of a fiery aspect to her. And because the
Right.
moon also represents our emotional body, our emotional state,
Mhm. Mhm.
when you introduce Mars into your emotional state, you tend to get
Mhm.
frustration. That's just the energy that tends to come out. Um,
Yeah.
and so, again, we've sort of been seeing that for a while through these eclipses. We're going to see that again with
Right.
this full moon as well. What will
Right.
feel noticeably different about this full moon compared to the eclipses we dealt with earlier this month and middle of last month is, because this will not be an eclipse, this will be an actual full
Mhm.
moon. You can look up, you can see the whole moon. no
Right.
eclipse.
Right.
Um, we'll actually have more clarity, more visual
Oh, good.
clarity. So even the way, Christy, you are kind of articulating, it's you in this case,
Uh-huh.
we'll have
Uh-huh.
more of that where we might still feel the frustration, but we know
Right.
where it's coming from. Whereas actually
Right.
during the
Right.
eclipses, it was more like,
Uh-huh.
I am just frustrated with you and I don't know why. It might be you, it might
Right.
be me, I don't even know. So there is more clarity going into this
Uh-huh.
one. That even though we
Oh,
may
good.
feel the feels, we'll know, and even if we do find ourselves fighting the tree occasionally, we do
Mhm.
know deep down what our actual enemy is.
Right. And that brings such joy to my heart because at least now I know, like, okay, it is me, but I'm not crazy. I really have to work on this. And this is what I love so much about astrology. And this is that it does give you such clarity and insight into, okay, this is where we're at, and this is what we're
Yeah.
working with, and I do so much better when I know, okay, you know what, I'm probably going to be fighting a tree with a stick in the dark in the wrong woods, but I know I'm there, so I will be the
I
hermit
love
and I will
that.
get my little lantern and I will walk myself out and figure out where I'm supposed to be. Clearly it's going to take me a few weeks, so bear with me, everyone, as I, wandered through the woods.
I mean, okay, so one other thing I will say about this full moon that is
Uh-huh.
positive. So it this
Mhm.
might not exactly be you fighting a tree with a stick in the dark in the wrong woods. Just to give you like a one other really nice thing about this full
Mhm.
moon, in addition to it not being an eclipse, so we have a lot more clarity, is that
Mhm.
almost exactly when this full moon happens, early Thursday
Mhm.
morning, Venus
Mhm.
moves out of Scorpio and into Sagittarius.
Oh,
So they both
okay.
so those both happen almost at exactly the same time. So,
All
we
right.
sort of talked about how Venus, where it is right now in Scorpio, intense, kind of
Mhm.
needy, kind of frustrated, having internal frustration, taking that out on the people around them.
Uh-huh.
But as Venus moves into Sagittarius, Sagittarius is the eternal optimist. Sagittarius
Yes.
is ruled by Jupiter. It sees the big picture. It's fiery and motivated, whereas Aries is fiery and wants to go to war. Sagittarius is fiery and wants to go change the world. It's almost like
Right.
they're
Right.
warriors of a different type, but they both have that
Yes.
fire move forward energy.
I
And
love that.
so yeah, I think this is going to be really beautiful having Venus moving into Sagittarius rather than staying in Scorpio, where it's been causing some problems. But also uncovering some things. Again, Venus, as you
Yes.
mentioned, Christy, with your stuff,
Mhm.
Venus and Scorpio, it will bring stuff up for us
Yeah.
to see and heal, which
Mhm.
is an amazing opportunity. But we don't really want that to last forever. There's only so much of that
Right.
we can do at a time.
Ye yes, and I think my husband would probably be like, "You know what? You just stay in the RV. I'm going to a hotel. I will send you money on Thursday. Here's some chocolate. Here's some wine. Goodbye."
Yeah. Yeah, you can
Now,
tell him things are looking easier.
I'll be like, "Okay, sorry, I was a shit. It's gonna get better. Give me a couple of weeks."
Yeah, it's
Then
gonna feel a lot more, a lot lighter. You know,
yes.
even just thinking about the water energy versus the fire energy, fixed water,
Ah,
Scorpio versus mutable fire,
mhm.
Sagittarius.
Right.
The Scorpio, that depth, that
Mhm.
fixedness, the Scorpio energy is almost like a swamp. Um,
Yeah.
and swamps are amazing. There's incredible like
Oh, yeah.
biodiversity in swamps,
Beautiful. Mhm.
but it's sort of like that stagnant, fixed water.
Yeah.
Like it,
Mhm.
you're, and swamps preserve things. again, because
Right.
it's sort of like there's no rushing water and,
Yeah.
it yeah, swamps are kind of where Venus is right now. Venus is sort of slogging through the swamp. But
That,
Sagittarius, the
yeah.
mutable fire sign, that's a lot more like a campfire with friends, where
Yeah.
it's just there's a lightness, the flames are going up, they're not fixed
Hmm.
down, they're moving up. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I think Venus being in Sagittarius is going to be more of a fun relational social time for all of us,
Oh,
all of
good. Yes.
us.
See, and I love this. There's light at the end of the tunnel, y'all. It's never always that bad. It just never.
Yeah, there are always, always opportunities. And I think one of the things that I've probably said this before, but one of the things that I love the most about astrology for my personal use is that it reminds me
Yeah.
that no energy lasts forever. And sometimes we feel like it
Right.
will. When we're kind of right in the
Mhm.
middle of something and it feels so difficult, we're like, I'm always
Yeah.
going to feel like this. And it's really
Yeah.
comforting to kind of look at astrology and say, oh, well, Venus is in Scorpio now, but it's moving. It's going to move into
Right.
Sagittarius in just a couple days, and
Right.
then energy will shift. So,
Yes.
yeah, lots of opportunities, and no energy, whether we love it the most or hate it the most, is going to stick around
Uh-huh.
forever. The planets keep moving.
Right. I love that. I love that. You always I love that you tell it how it is, but you always give us some positivity
I
too,
give
so
some
that we're
hope.
not, yes, yes, so that we're not just like, God Almighty, pray for him. Because
Well,
oh,
and
poor guy.
I mean, I do also feel like, um, if we think about each of the zodiac signs that are
Mhm.
consecutively next to each other, it goes Aries and then
Mhm.
Taurus, for example, are the first two zodiac
Right.
signs. That's a needed shift. Like if
Yeah.
you picture being at war and,
Hmm.
all of the horrors related to being at war and seeing friends
Right.
die and things blown up and, you
Yeah.
know, like that's a crazy intense energy. And sometimes that's needed. But
Hmm.
the sign right after it is Taurus, fixed
Yeah.
earth, a cow grazing in the countryside. You need
Yes.
that after Aries.
Yeah.
And then when you go from
Right.
Taurus to Gemini, Gemini is
Mhm.
all about curiosity and new ideas and new
Mhm.
perspectives. And, if you've been just, a cow grazing on the grass in the countryside for too long, you're probably kind of stale and in a rut. And you
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
that Gemini energy to kind of pull you out, get you excited about something. Ooh, this new idea, this new idea, this new idea. And so,
Right.
um, as the planets move between the zodiac signs, it's not that they are good or bad, or the energy
Mhm.
is like good or bad in any of the signs, but we generally feel sort of I don't know if relief is quite the right word, but it's like when a planet enters a new sign, there's usually sort of the feel of, yes, this was what we needed. This is kind of the
Yes.
corrective energy we
Right.
needed for what was happening before. And I
Right.
think a lot of us probably uncovered some deep and important stuff with Venus and
Mhm.
Scorpio. I know I definitely had some dreams about
Oh.
some relationship stuff. And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I think that's Venus and Scorpio, kind of bringing that up
Right.
from the subconscious overnight. Um, and so I think it's been a very valuable time. But after we do that deep excavation
Mhm.
of past
Mhm.
traumas, how nice does Venus in Sagittarius
Yeah.
just sitting with friends around a campfire feel? Pretty nice.
Right. 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 Well, because like you said, some of the stuff that it's bringing up, I mean, for me, it is stuff that happened a long time ago.
Hmm.
You guys, I mean, come January, I would have been married to my husband for 11 years. So this is stuff that happened like 14 years ago. I mean,
Okay.
like a long time ago. This wasn't, it didn't just happen. And So to kind of be like, oh, okay, so now there's this, to be able to walk through that, but come out on the other end, like you said, and have that nice kind of fire and dance around it and celebrate and watch the flames and everything.
Mm,
It is healing, and there's also
yeah.
something about releasing. Oh, Dawn, we must sound really amazing on 1.7 times.
We sound like chipmunks. I bet we sound like chipmunks.
And I bet our laughs are great.
Oh my gosh,
But
we've already got fast laughs. Nobody needs to hear that on 1.75 times.
I know. Oh gosh. But it is, and you guys, I always want to encourage you that, like, yes, we've got to do that kind of drudgery stuff of like, life is lived in the valleys, but it's celebrated on the mountaintops. And right now we're in a
Mm,
valley, and we're getting to the mountaintop. And then when we get there, we'll be able to celebrate that. But you still got to go up that hill to get
yeah.
there. And so it's encouraging. And I want to encourage you too, Karina. If you see any comments you want to pull up
Yeah.
or anything you want to address, go ahead. Ben's been kind of funny,
He has been pretty funny. I
talking
feel
about
like
opting out.
a squirrel in the road. I'm just picturing that like, oh my gosh.
I know.
I do love that too. Everything that rises up passes away. Um,
Yes,
you
that's
know,
beautiful.
yeah, that is really beautiful. And I think,
Mhm.
yeah, there's something very comforting for all of us in that. That no matter what is happening in our lives, whether it's amazing or not so amazing, it's a time, it's
Uh-huh.
a season, and there will be other times and other seasons, and our soul is navigating all of these for its maximum growth.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I guess maybe sort of um, bringing up one more thing along those lines
Yeah.
with this full moon, we talked quite a bit about Chiron in your birth chart reading, Christy, because it was
Mm-hmm.
an important asteroid for you. Um,
Right.
and this full moon, it's not right on Chiron, but it's close.
Hmm.
It's within three
Oh.
degrees. The moon will be within 3 degrees of Chiron. So this full
Okay.
moon is squaring Mars, and within 3 degrees of the moon is Chiron. Now, the moon is moving away from Chiron. It's actually right on top of Chiron right now, like today
Mm-hmm.
now. But by the time the full
Okay.
moon hits on Thursday, the moon will still be close to Chiron, but will be a few degrees past it. And
Okay.
Chiron does bring up our wounds, and does
Mm-hmm.
remind us if there are areas we haven't fully healed that we kind of put on the back burner and said, I'll deal with that later. Chiron will bring those
Mm-hmm.
things up. And so, especially like today, or,
Mm-hmm.
the past few days, the next few days leading up to
Uh-huh.
the full moon,
Uh-huh.
we are likely to be kind of triggered around relationship stuff
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
areas where we've been wounded before. And so again,
Right.
it's a reminder whenever Chiron shows up in any of these bigger
Mm-hmm.
astrological transits, it's a reminder that we do need to heal. We can't press
Yeah.
pause forever.
Mm-hmm.
We can't put
Right.
something in it, stuff it in the back of a closet forever. At some point, it really starts hurting us. And so
Yeah.
when these Chiron transits, hit like the full moon, like it is on Thursday, it's such a
Uh-huh.
wonderful time to basically revisit. And maybe we aren't ready to heal in that
Yeah.
area yet, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Healing takes its
Mm-hmm.
own time, which is different for everybody.
Right.
But it's at
Right.
least those Chiron transits are a good time to check in and just be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, I do remember. I haven't really healed that yet. And at some point, I'll
Right.
probably want to deal with that. Maybe that isn't right now, but at some point, I
Mm-hmm.
want to. So, Chiron's presence
Yeah.
in the chart prevents us from stuffing something in the closet, letting it fester
Mm-hmm.
there forever and come out in weird ways and affect our lives. And we're like, I don't know where that
Mm-hmm.
energy is coming from. And it came from the thing we
Right.
stuffed in the back of the closet like 20 years ago, you know? So,
Right.
so Chiron
Right.
helps remind us of whatever
Right.
is at the bottom of the to-do list that hasn't been
Mm-hmm.
gotten to, or whatever has been stuffed in the back of the closet.
Well, and I love that you say this. I want to make this point, and then we'll go on to Dawn's question. Hold on.
It sounds like your
I think
dog
that
is going all Aries and maybe like attacking a tree instead of a real
yes,
enemy.
yes, yeah. I'm pretty sure there's like a leaf blowing. He is. He's just, you're special, aren't you? You're extra today. He's extra today. The point that I wanted to make was when you were doing my birth chart reading, you're like, oh, yeah, you're going to know what this is about. Because I remember asking you. And I just remember thinking, well, what could this be? And then as you're talking about this, so for those of you that don't know, a lot of my trauma comes around from my ex husband, from the abuse and things like that that I went through for a very long time. And so as I was doing that, I was only healing the things that like were most important at the moment. Like, okay, I have to be able to like myself. Okay, I have to be able to show love again. Okay, I need to get out of my anorexia and start eating, those kinds of things. This is something that has been shoved to the bottom because I kind of forgot about it. Like it got shoved way down there. And then as it was coming up and as we were talking now, I'm like, oh, this is what it is. And so Chiron, my wounded healer, guys, is around traumatic relationships. So when things come up, it's coming up around these situations that I've had in my life that are needing to be healed. So again, how your birth chart is really important to everything. So I just wanted to make that point, and then it looks like Dawn has a question.
Is my double Aries ass going to be okay this week? Well,
I
Dawn,
love it.
it absolutely will. Um, Everything we've talked about so far is going
Mm-hmm.
to apply probably extra to you. And it depends on exactly what degrees your sun and your moon are in Aries, how close they are to this. This particular full moon takes place at 24 degrees Aries. So if you are early Aries, I don't know, 5 degrees, 7 degrees, yes, you'll still feel it, but not as intensely. If your sun or your moon is natally at 24 degrees, you will definitely feel it. But again, what's interesting is if we think about the full moon with the sun in Libra and the moon in Aries, in Dawn's case, Dawn, both your sun and your moon are with the moon in Aries.
Yeah.
That definitely that's balancing a lot more towards the warrior than towards
Yeah.
the peacemaker, because you've sort of
Right.
got
Right.
three big things over in Aries and just one thing over in Libra. So definitely worth. You will likely feel the urge to pick a lot of fights. Choose your battles wisely. Pick the right battles. Make sure you're fighting an actual enemy and not a tree
Right.
that you're kind of taking
Right.
some other deeper stuff out on. And that's true for anybody who's got strong Aries placements. Um,
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I tell you, I was really looking forward to this because I knew you would be able to give me some insight because I was just like, I
oh,
know something's going on. I'm not quite sure, but so y'all, like, in the most southern, nicest way, pray for my husband. He needs it. Send him out those when you, as I say during the morning lives. It send out those positive, wonderful, healing, encouraging vibes. And if you need some from the universe, take some from yourself. So maybe send a little extra because I'm a little extra right now. Um, Let's see, Dirty Mouse. Is there any
mm,
moon where I can just kick back and relax? Geez, the last 8 months has been shattering and I just need a break. Dirty Mouse, I am so
I
sorry that
am
you
so
are
sorry.
going through that. That's that is very tough. That is very tough. And Karina, I'll
Yeah.
let you because I don't have that answer. So Karina.
Yeah. So yeah, first of all, yeah, we're both really sorry. And I
Yeah.
do know that this year, and honestly, for many people, even since the beginning of 2020, when
Yeah.
COVID started. It feels like it has been one long slog, and there have been some amazing moments,
Yeah.
absolutely, and some great times, but the overall energy has just there's been a heaviness to it. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, what's been tricky, Dirty Mouse, is that right now we have had Uranus in Taurus, which means anytime the moon goes through a fixed sign, it's basically
Mhm.
aspecting Uranus, which is not
Mhm.
relaxing. Uranus is not bad, but it's not relaxing. It's actually pretty
Right.
electrical and
Yeah. Yeah.
so not relaxing. And we've got Pluto in Capricorn. So anytime the moon is going through a cardinal sign, it's aspecting Pluto, which is not bad, but which is not relaxing.
Mhm.
And then
Right.
we have Saturn in Pisces. So anytime the moon goes through a mutable sign, it's aspecting Saturn, which Saturn is many good things, but again, not relaxing. And so
Right.
this is
Right.
this is where things have been really tough, finding just those, lying on a beach, sipping pineapple juice kind of moments emotionally, because
Right.
um, sometimes the more intense planets are sort of stacked up in a single area of the chart, and then
Mhm.
when everything goes in every other part of the chart, life feels pretty good. But yeah, what's been
Right.
tricky over the last several years is because these bigger outer planets that are more intense and sobering have been aspecting, they basically
Mhm.
between Uranus and Pluto and Saturn, they've got every
Mhm.
sign covered. One of
Right.
them has all the
Right.
mutable, one of them has all the cardinal, one of them has all the fixed. So it just
Right.
hasn't, and I really like the way Dirty Mouse phrased that, of any moon where I can just kick back and relax. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, I feel like we all want that. We all want just like, it's beautiful, relaxing. Woo, there's nothing on my mind.
Yes.
I'm doing just fine. We all want that kind of moon. And there are some
Mhm.
beautiful moons coming up. The first half of this year has been pretty difficult in a lot of ways. Um,
Yeah.
but the reason we haven't had that full just release, freedom, complete relaxation, um, relaxing in the sun, the reason we haven't had many of those moons this year and the last few years has been because
Mhm.
of the the sober energies are kind of evenly divided through the chart. So
Right.
we're always
Right.
getting some of them. I think the advantage to that, because again, there's always a pro and a con with everything.
Yeah.
Um, so the advantage to that and the way we can use this Dirty Mouse is basically, even though, like, if we're waiting for the time where everything just feels easy,
Mhm.
that we'll have to wait a little while to get that. But
Right.
if, like, Pluto, Saturn, Uranus, some of those bigger, more sobering energies, they aren't
Mhm.
all hitting every area of our charts at the same time. Um,
Right.
so, if we can find the ways to focus on where the good things are happening, there will always
Mhm.
be some difficulty for the
Mhm.
foreseeable future. There's always going to be a little bit of heaviness. It won't be quite that full relaxation, but there will
Mhm.
be like streams of sunlight. And
Right.
so it's
Right.
almost like, in those moments, um, I did a gratitude practice for a while. I am not still doing
Mhm.
it. I'm now feeling like this would be a really good season to bring that back up
Right.
again.
Right.
But
Right.
in almost every case, um,
Mhm.
there's something good to be really
Yeah.
grateful for.
Mhm.
And it might even be something small, but something where it's like, oh, that's really nice. So I was
Yep.
driving somewhere this morning, and it was like a
Mhm.
30-mile drive. And I stopped for
Wow.
gas before I left. And
Uh-huh.
then I, got back on the road. And the person behind me in the car was kind of motioning to me. I had forgotten to put the gas cap back on. That is where I was
Oh.
at this morning, people.
Right.
Yeah, around Karena always handles everything well. No, she does not.
Right.
Sometimes she forgets to put her gas cap back on. But this really nice woman behind me was kind of
Right.
gesturing to me, and she was showing me like, yeah, you need, and I was like, oh, and
Nice.
I was literally, I had just pulled out of the gas station. So I just pulled right back into the gas station, put the cap
Right.
back on.
There
Um,
you go.
and and I was like, that is so nice. Like, you could say it's just a small
Mhm.
thing, but I don't actually
Right.
know if it's even safe to drive a car
Right.
with an open gas tank 30 miles. This is not like I'm going a
Yeah.
mile down the street to the grocery store. This
Right.
is like freeway
Right.
driving. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, that is so nice. So even
Yeah.
when there are kind of these heavier things going on in our lives, those are real. We need to give ourselves
Yeah.
space to feel the feels for those. But at the same
Yeah.
time, really also taking the time to feel the feels for those small, amazing
Mhm.
things where it's like, I'm so glad that woman, noticed it and then
Yeah.
kind of took the time to try to kind of flag me down.
Right.
Um,
Let you know. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So finding those moments makes a lot of this easier because
Mhm.
it's really easy with these energies all kind of spread throughout the chart to just feel like nothing is good, right?
Right.
Nothing is relaxing, nothing is good. Um, and while there is some truth to, like,
Mhm.
there are difficulties, we do need to give ourselves space to feel those difficulties. Yeah, there are areas of the chart, there are things happening that are good
Yeah.
and beautiful. And how do we really appreciate those and give those equal brain space as much as possible with the
Right.
heavier things until we kind of some planets shift around. I actually feel like when Pluto moves into Aquarius, it
Mhm.
will help some of this because that's going to start freeing up um, the
Mhm.
cardinal signs.
Mhm.
Um, so
Good.
maybe stay tuned. Stay tuned, Dirty
Right.
Mouths. After
There.
November
There you
19th,
go.
when Pluto moves into Aquarius, there will be some areas of the chart the moon can go each month and not be hit by a more sobering energy.
And just to say, we did, it was a couple of months back, I think it was in the summertime, we did talk about the difference between fixed, cardinal, and mutable signs. So if you don't know what we're talking about when we talk about that, go give that a rewatch because that was some really good information. Get your notebook again and kind of journal through everything, so that keep it close so you can refer back to it. But yeah, that's something too.
Oh, and Dawn saying she's felt like a punching bag since the fall of
Oh,
2019.
gosh, yeah,
I'm
that.
so sorry.
And this year has been exceptionally hard too because numerologically, it's an 8 year, so it's very transitional. And
Yeah.
sometimes it feels more like the Eight of Swords than it does like the Eight of Cups or something like that. Like you can feel really kind of stuck and uncertain and unsure how to go. And I know it's probably not super encouraging, but it's been very difficult in a lot of different ways for a lot of people, especially this year. And Karina's even mentioned
Mm,
that too, that you just kind of seen that this year. So
yeah.
I feel like too, again, just saying, hey, you're not alone. Um, we're all kind of feeling some kind of way about something. And I want to encourage you guys too, if you haven't joined the Facebook group, it's a
Mm,
private Facebook group called Conversations with Christy. You're welcome to go over and find it, join, and then that's a great place to connect and share your rituals, your things, what you're going through, what you're seeing, what you're feeling, kind of help each other walk through this journey because it really it can feel very, very prickly and difficult. But the other side of that, like Karina's saying, is there's always something to be grateful for. There's always something there to like a light at the end of
mm,
the tunnel to just be like, okay, next few weeks, be mindful about, what's going on and where we're at. But also know it's not going to go on forever. I think that's really important. Really
Yeah.
important.
I love how you phrased that, Christy. And I don't know a ton about numerology. I did not know it was an 8 year. But
Yeah.
that resonates so strongly talking about this year as a transitional year.
Yeah.
And we had earlier in the year, it was April or May, we had the big Jupiter Uranus conjunction, which happens about every
Mm-hmm.
14 years. So it's been a
Mm-hmm.
while since it happened last. And
Mm-hmm.
Uranus wants to change everything up and kind of burn everything to the ground and start over. And Jupiter
Right.
is expansive and
Mm-hmm.
sees a big picture and a vision. And so it's almost like Uranus is there, like, let's change everything. And Jupiter's like, in a big way,
Right.
and they're kind
Right.
of like
Yeah.
working together to kind of like everybody's going to have these big, massive changes. And I think there's so much opportunity at the end of this because I do think as
Mm-hmm.
humans, we tend to fall into, our habits, our routines.
Right.
We kind of get into a rut. Every day is a little bit like the last
Mm-hmm.
day, which was like the last
Mm-hmm.
day, which was like last year, last decade. It starts to look like that.
Yeah.
And even though these times of transition are so challenging on so many
Mm-hmm.
levels and sort of tear away the stability that we humans crave and
Right.
need, to feel safe and
Yes.
secure and anchored, um, it's sort of like when we're shaken loose from whatever we're holding on to, we're probably
Mm-hmm.
going to think twice about what we hold on to next,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there
Yep.
is kind of yeah, almost an energy of some of what we sort of burn down and start over with during this time probably will be able to see it as being for our best later. But
Mm-hmm.
almost
Mm-hmm.
everything that later we see as being for our best is not very fun at the time.
Yeah.
So
Right.
there is kind of some waves there. I like how you phrased it. I think at the beginning of the program, Christy, kind of there's the troughs and the mountains,
Yes.
and
Yes.
yeah, we go through some of each.
Yes. Well, we really do. And, sometimes too, there's really big things. I've talked about it before. Sorry, guys, allergies. When my dad passed away, when a bunch of things happened, and that was just he passed on the 10th of this month in 2012. So I mean, it's been a long time ago. But when all of that was happening, I didn't understand why it was happening. I
Mm,
didn't get it. And it wasn't until years later, guys, and I mean years, like 3, 4, 5 years down the road, I was driving down the road one day and it hit me. It was like, if I hadn't gone through all of that, I wouldn't have been able to have reconnected with my dad. If I hadn't been there with my mom and dad as that was going on, I wouldn't have learned the things that I learned, and I wouldn't be who I was now. I couldn't understand that at that point. Like when I was still grief, because it was like a lot of big stuff happening all at once. And when I was working through all of it, I couldn't understand all of it, but you get a little ways down the road, and like Karina just said, you get that perspective, and then you can see, okay, this really was a really good thing that happened to
mm,
me. It didn't feel like it in the moment, um, but it definitely, I see it now. And sometimes that's difficult too, to
mm.
understand that the lessons there, it's just maybe you've got a little bit more to get through until you can really see what that looks like. But it's yeah, nothing about this is always all as easy as we would hope it would be. Like,
Yeah. And I think one interesting thing, which is totally coming up, based on what you are saying, Christy, and thinking about this as like a transitional year from a
mhm,
numerology
mhm,
perspective. So Pluto is at 29 degrees and 38 minutes of Capricorn. And we talked a bunch about how on November 19th, Pluto is going to go into Aquarius for good.
right,
But
right,
Pluto currently is in a cardinal sign, Capricorn, just like these
mhm,
eclipses taking place in cardinal signs, Aries and Libra,
Mhm.
just like the full
Mhm.
moon on Thursday is in cardinal signs. And Pluto
Mhm.
isn't exactly square this full moon
Mhm.
that's coming up, but it is within 5 degrees. So it's still
Mhm.
there. And whenever a planet
Yeah.
is in the final degree of a sign, which Pluto is in less than the final degree, it's in the final half degree of Capricorn.
Uh-huh.
There's an intensity, there's a need to close things out. This is going to be the
Yeah.
last time in um, many of our lifetimes, definitely my lifetime,
Mhm.
that we see
Mhm.
eclipses. What am I trying to say? That we see eclipses happen in cardinal signs while Pluto is in a cardinal sign
Oh, wow.
and sort of
Okay.
squaring those eclipses. This is going to be the
Yeah.
last time for
Right.
probably, I don't know, 50 years.
Mhm.
So, there is that energy of like Pluto in Capricorn is trying to close stuff out. This is like the night
Yeah.
before the final exam. If we haven't studied already, we are now cramming officially
Uh-huh.
to learn everything we
Yeah.
can in this last moment,
A little
this
bit.
last month
Right.
before Pluto moves into a fixed sign for the next 20 years. So I think there's
Right.
some of that happening too, where
Mhm.
some of the transition, yeah, Jupiter conjunct Uranus earlier this year, total transitions. But also,
Mhm.
Pluto only changes signs every 20 years. And we basically have
Right.
the once every 14-year Jupiter Uranus conjunction, the same year that we have Pluto changing signs. So
Right.
that doesn't typically happen. Usually those would be
Right.
staggered. So it's sort of a lot of change at once.
Mhm.
And I do
Mhm.
feel viscerally and see in people's lives that Pluto, in that last degree of the cardinal sign, is trying to close stuff out. And so, in so
Right.
many ways, over the last several months, over this whole year, it's been bringing stuff up. If there's like
Mm.
Pluto in Capricorn stuff, each one of us needs to deal with, it's almost like
Yeah.
Pluto is saying, this is our last chance to
Right.
deal with it before we move on.
Right.
And again, Pluto
Right.
moves so slowly, 20 years in a sign. None of us will see Pluto in Capricorn again. Pluto will not be in Capricorn again for probably 220 years.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
we're experiencing the last of this energy that's going to be here for quite a long time.
Isn't that amazing? What an amazing thought. I mean, to know that we are
Yeah.
seeing something like that. Wow. Well, guys, we are just a little over an hour. And so I wanted to go ahead and, Karina, did you have any final thoughts for us? Anything you want to kind of send us off with before we head out today?
Hmm. Yes. The question is, how do I boil that into something succinct? um, and I'm so wordy.
Yes,
I feel like
it's
the
okay. Be
biggest
wordy.
I feel like the biggest takeaway for these last couple of eclipses from the past month
Mhm.
and this full moon that's happening on Thursday, all of these are connected. All of these are about, our energy versus our energy with others in relationships. Um,
Mhm.
we are going to feel Mars. We are going to want to sort of engage and, be our own warrior. But
Mhm.
just making sure that whatever we're pointing that sword at is the right enemy. And I
Right.
love, Christy, how
Right.
you always talk about being swordsy. And this is like, swordsy is great. Swordsy is expected right now. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
making sure we're sort of pointing that in the right place. And
Right.
sometimes that might even mean, um, if people have a trusted friend or a therapist they can talk to, but kind of digging deep, where's
Mhm.
this actually coming from?
Yeah.
Because we're all going to feel this Mars. We're all going to feel the
Yeah.
frustration. We're all going to feel some swordsiness. And then it's just a
Right.
question of if we try to repress it and push it down, maybe
Mhm.
that will work. Maybe it will just then will explode at the wrong time, the time we really don't
Right.
want to let it out. So, but
Right.
learning how
Right.
to deal with this productively. because it is
Hmm.
productive. You know, having anger and frustration about past traumas,
Hmm.
that's normal. That's
Right.
good, you know, and so
Hmm.
that's just then how do we use that to empower our healing rather than take it out on someone who has nothing to do with why we're actually feeling the way we are.
Right, right. That is so wise. That is so wise. Um, well, I appreciate, you know, um, each of you being here. Karina, I appreciate
Yes.
all of your wisdom. You guys, like I said,
Such a good
if
group.
you, I know we're growing such a beautiful, like little tribe here, aren't we? I'm so excited.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't joined our Facebook group yet, please do that. Again, it's just Conversations with Christy. Just click the little thing and it'll be over there. Please make sure to follow Karina. She is not on Facebook, but she does have her own website. She's got a Substack that she does these beautiful astrological things for us every week so we know what
Mm.
is coming through for us for that week. It's really helpful. And Karina and I, every month, we do a joint tarot reading. We do a lot of these collaborations. We're doing a whole bunch this month. So you guys, it's beautiful. Please, if you haven't, please like and subscribe. Hit that all for notifications. Um, and I think, was there anything else I wanted to say? Oh, just I seen a few new names in the chat. We do a live tarot reading every morning, 9:30 a.m. Central right now. But yes, all right, let me get to where I need to be here. And I'm going to say this and then I'll take us out. You guys, as always, go conquer your world as only you can. We'll be here to help you light the way.